Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening. Let me just start out by welcoming you all on behalf of the Emoyo Foundation to our parallel event on tackling post-apartheid gender inequality through arts education. I am so glad I get to kick off this gathering and moderate one of the wonderful panels today. I am Erita Chen, an 11th grade student from Hong Kong International School, and I was locked down in South Africa for over 6 months during COVID. While I was there, I was lucky to work on fundraising with the Dennis Goldberg Legacy Trust Foundation and was able to get acquainted with the many wonderful organizations here today, being able to observe, research, and volunteer with them. Today, we will be exploring the preventative and empowerment strategies of South African NGOs who have used the performing and visual arts to uplift communities and promote women's empowerment in the process. These include Amoyo Performing Arts Foundation, Jazzart Dance Theater, and the BAZ-ART organization, which will be elaborated on later in the meeting. But from murals to dance, they have all been using all sorts of arts to directly inspire young women and men across South Africa's underprivileged areas, challenging stereotypes and prejudices along the way. Their work with younger generations of students, from primary to matric, is extremely important, for it is through empowering the future generations of women and educating the future generations of men that we can gain lasting change in all patriarchal societies. And this change is needed. As of right now, in post-apartheid South Africa, 17% of young girls in the underprivileged sector are receiving no formal education. Even for those who have, school absenteeism for girls is common, especially in rural township areas. Girls, more often than boys, are likely to be the victims of sexual harassment, rape, and other forms of violence. Indeed, South Africa's gender-based violence is one of the highest in the continent, with nearly half of all South African women reporting some form of abuse at the hands of intimate partners, while around 28% of them have reported being raped in their lifetime. The resulting trauma frequently leads to a drop in school attendance, as well as mental and physical harm, reducing their chances of entering high-paying occupations and living healthy, fulfilling lives. So, the root of this prevalent violence is largely due to a belief in male superiority, which in fact has no basis whatsoever. This belief can manifest in men feeling entitled to controlling women, strict reinforcement of gender roles and hierarchy, and gatekeeping females from entering positions of power. These factors interact with a number of drivers, such as social norms, low levels of women's empowerment, the lack of social support, socioeconomic inequality, and substance abuse, leading to insurmountable loss to the potential of South Africa's young women. So, to combat these issues, we would like to highlight organizations that have used arts education as a secret ingredient to empowering youths in the townships and underprivileged areas, and who have also used the arts to teach young men to respect their female peers. Of course, these organizations are only part of the connection between the arts and combating gender inequality. As a quick rundown of our event format, we have two exciting panels that we will be hearing from today. First, Kim Morel, co-founder of sponsoring organization Amoyo, will be hearing from representatives of the NGOs in a discussion on the arts and its capacity for encouraging gender equality. Then, I will be interviewing their beneficiaries of all ages and genders to learn how exactly these organizations have taught them about empowerment. By discussing their various strategies working with diverse young men and women, from a 12-year-old to teenagers and graduates, as well as speaking directly with their multi-generational beneficiaries on the effects of these practices, we hope to highlight the potential of arts education in furthering an equal society for all. So, I will now show a video introducing our sponsoring organization, Amoyo, and then invite Kim Worrall, co-founder and CEO of the Amoyo Foundation, to speak of her organization's teaching philosophy for promoting equality amongst its students.
Amoyo because I like dance. I love Amoyo because it gives me courage. Because I like friends. Because I love African dance. Because it is special for me and I love ballet. Because it supports me and it's like a family to me. I love Amoyo because it's beautiful.
Emoyo is a non-profit organization whose main objective is keeping children away from the negative influences that are rife in the informal settlement communities here in South Africa. And we do our best to share as much life information with our attendees, especially our teens and our seniors, using the time we have with the children, engaging with them through the performing arts to help them understand why they are worthy of success, why they need to invest in themselves, why they need to make positive life choices, and hopefully instilling a set of skills that will enable them to want to be successful in life and give them the toolkit to be successful in life.
We run 32 classes a week, teaching African contemporary ballet, drama, and musical theater. We also have a Young Men of Change program where I teach them djembe drumming, and they also get mentored in those sessions.
Ever since I've been part of the Amoyo Performing Arts, I've been a good, positive thinker. I know what I want in life. I know how to overcome challenges as a young man and how to be a role model to my younger brother and my younger fellow students in Amoyo.
My experience in Amoyo has been amazing. Amoyo has changed me into a positive young adult. Without Amoyo, life would have been very different, because since I joined Amoyo, I can stand up for what I believe in. I can say no to peer pressure. I can influence others the way that I think it's positive. And working in the streets, in the community, when you see children running around and they call your name and say, I love what you do, I love the way you sing, the way you dance, just pushes my confidence, and I just want to do more.
I'm a member of Amoyo because I've got a passion. I love dance, and I've been working with kids since I was young. I love kids, and also when I see them dancing, I feel very, very proud.
We need a minimum of 80,000 Rand a month to run our Monday to Friday after school program, which currently is reaching 175 children a week. That doesn't include our feeding programs, our weekend and holiday workshops, our counseling, PR, marketing, and everything else that goes into running a business. But we can keep our doors open with 80,000 Rand a month. Amoyo is really changing lives. If you feel inspired by our stories and would like to help us change the lives of more children in years to come, please donate straight away via the crowdfunding link on BackaBuddy.
Amoyo is the spirit of appreciation, and we appreciate every bit of your help. Bye!
All right, so now I would like to introduce Kim Morel.
Thank you, Erita, for your informative introduction, and a warm welcome and appreciation to you all for joining our event. In 2015, when I joined forces with my co-founders Mandisa Kwesha and Nandipa Sandlana to form Help Bay's first triple threat performing arts school, I cannot lie, I had visions of churning out zillions of highly talented performers and had our goals set on supplying the arts, TV and film industry with South Africa's top talent. I had that whole name up in lights excitement about what we were offering. Within a matter of weeks of teaching in this, for me, new environment, I recognized that we needed to rethink and readdress our entire mission and vision, rethink our philosophy, our approach to our classes, our methods of communication, and our message. I had been a volunteer counsellor in our local victim support centre, and I was suddenly recognizing and understanding so much more of the plight of our youth, especially our girls and young women. I had counselled so many victims of trauma, violence, rape, attempted suicide, so many young girls falling prey to much older sexual predators. Within Amoyo, this was translating over to why our beneficiaries never arrived on time. Why are our beneficiaries coming one day but not the next? Why is there so much verbal and sometimes physical aggression happening? Why do children arrive and leave without saying hello or goodbye or saying thank you to the teachers? Why do the children make no eye contact and barely speak above a whisper the moment we, as adults, engage with them? There is only one answer to all these questions. This is a reflection of how most of our youth regard themselves and their place in society. Low self-respect, low self-esteem, and low self-worth with little to no understanding of the value that they have to offer in society. We only need to look at the school dropout rates, the unemployment rate, the rate of teenage pregnancies, and the amount of struggle, poverty, child abuse, and child neglect to see the results of the current status quo. So where does this stem from? How do we address these needs to bring about the change we need to see in our country as a whole? Post-apartheid South Africa. In 1996, when I first came to study and live in South Africa, I arrived in a country that was healing from war, but the positive energy and emergence of a nation wanting to prosper and move forward was tangible. It was in the air. Sadly, the forward-moving and uplifting climate started to decline into the despair our nation finds itself in today. Crime against women and children, domestic and gender-based violence, and gender inequality is breaking the African spirit. And the positive African proverb, spirit of Ubuntu, which means we are because you are, is taking strain. Sadly, the country's leadership since Nelson Mandela's demise has not been fit to lead by example with integrity and has greatly contributed to yet again another demise to our nation. But Amoyo's motto to combat gender inequality and improve empowerment is changing lives, one child at a time. How do we navigate this pathway to changing a life, and what does changing a life really mean? At Emoyo, we have come to learn that despite offering an array of professional performing arts classes, the big impact and our results are not necessarily because of the classes themselves, but how each child is made to feel when they are at Amoyo. Our strength lies in being a small organization, our ability to monitor each child on a one-on-one basis. The more interactions we have with each child, the easier it is to recognize when something is amiss. Therefore, we encourage our children to come to as many classes as possible, and we build our programs around set age groups that attend classes up to 5 times a week when we are able to provide our full capacity of classes. The more times anyone hears that they are welcome, wanted, appreciated, worthy of being invested in, and slowly but surely that person's inner narrative also starts to change to I am cared about and noticed, and I matter. Amid all this happening under the umbrella of being safe after school in an engaging, activity-filled program that is dependable and reliable, many of our children are used to being told, you know what, it's only you today, or there's just a few of you, so we won't bother doing the class. I'll see you next time. At Amoyo, we do the opposite. If there's one child or just 2 or 3 children, our teachers are encouraged to welcome them with, wow, it's just you today. What a gift. I get to work one-on-one with you. We are going to have so much fun and accomplish so much. It's a pity the others aren't here, but I'm so glad to get this time just with you to get to know you better. How do you think that will make a person feel? Now take into consideration that many of our attendees share with us that they never get asked how their day was. They never get asked about school. Many children have told us no one at home has ever even said happy birthday to them or asked to ever see a school report. There are also children who have never been out of their immediate community, only to the shops that their family might go to or to the rural community homelands. And they are sometimes told, don't get ideas about uprising yourself or uplifting yourself. Don't think that you should be going to college. Don't go into the supermarket where other people shop who have got money. That's not where we go. And they're also discouraged from joining clubs or extramurals after school because they're expected to go home, do all the chores, all the cleaning, all the washing, and cook all the meals. And what we have found is that this mostly happens in homes where the parents are unemployed, sitting at home doing nothing the whole day. So again, I would like to ask you to imagine, once we have done a home visit to explain to the parents who, what, and why Amoyo is there, and to please grant permission for their child to attend, that said child then gets told they are worthy of having a private class all to themselves. Again, imagine what can that do for a child. For many of our children, those experiences have not only empowered them, but that was literally a life-changing moment. When a person realizes they matter, they carry value, they have rights, a life is changed. Our entire psychosocial side of interaction with our beneficiaries is basically founded on Parenting 101. How was I made to feel as a child? How was I encouraged, motivated? How do I strive to make my own children feel each and every day? Now let's aim to make every child at Amoyo feel that every day as well. We also know as parents that many child-parent conversations can't just happen once for a life lesson to be absorbed and learned. This is why these conversations need to happen repeatedly. Every day at Amoyo, our teachers are encouraged to start and end each class with a message focused on gratitude and appreciation, to find a way to make sure that every participant is motivated, encouraged, and congratulated on any achievement that is made, even if it's just for rocking up to watch the class before they feel confident enough to participate. Performing arts and education. All elements of performing arts bring 4 pillars of being to merge together. 1. The physicality of all performing arts, dance, acting, singing, stage presence, getting to know how your body works, being disciplined to move it as has been choreographed. Number 2, the emotional journey of overcoming challenges, or being able to step into a place where you can forget the struggles of the outside world, just having that place to escape to and have that relief of the mental and emotional strain for 45 minutes to an hour a day. The mental journey is number 3. The mental journey of commitment, determination, perseverance to show up, train, become fitter, more flexible, develop your voice, be creative, train your singing voice, master that difficult choreography. And finally, number 4, perform, reaching that goal, mastering that piece, having the confidence to own your moment on stage, to connect with your audience, to move an audience, and to receive that acknowledgement through applause. Being in our 6th year, we now have the results of monitoring those who used every opportunity Amoyo has had to offer versus those who chose to drop out. Amoyo graduates have gone overseas to work, have been selected out of hundreds of candidates for internship opportunities in businesses and 5-star hotels, have gone on to study professional performing arts or other university degrees such as psychology, business, criminology, nursing, law, event and project management, and even medicine. The fact is that every graduate has stated if it hadn't been for Amoyo, they probably would have dropped out of school, fallen pregnant, or entered a life of crime. And it was the personal and continuous interventions, monitoring, mentoring, encouragement, motivation that was consistent in their lives, never leaving them. We never stopped encouraging them and motivating them to work through all the struggles. We helped to keep them going. Gender equality. After a few years of hosting an annual personal and sexual health workshop, which was yielding great results in helping both our female and male participants truly understand the biology of their bodies, abstain from unhealthy relationships, and reduce teenage pregnancies and unhealthy dating relationships, overall, we decided to try something different one year. We had our largest teenage boy group ever and decided to ask the facilitating doctor to host the workshop with both genders present together. The outcome was phenomenal. For the first time, both genders were talking and sharing openly and learning together. In the beginning, they did feel awkward, but afterwards they shared with us a completely new outlook on the other gender and a newfound respect between the groups, which then went on to develop healthy friendships between the genders. And the boys actually became protective over the girls and said that they had learnt to look at the female gender completely differently and had newfound respect. And some of them actually told me personally that they went home and even told their fathers that they wanted to look out on their relationships with women in a different way to the way being brought up. One dating couple actually said that the workshop got them speaking to each other more responsibly and realized that neither was ready to take the risk of falling pregnant, so they had mutually agreed to abstain from taking the relationship to the next level. It doesn't get better than that. Culturally, this is a very different approach. In many African cultures, open, informative and factual conversations about puberty, the reproductive system and sexual relationships are taboo. Dating is forbidden, and this builds up a lot of resentment and destructive behaviors, and the result is that we see a lot of school dropouts and teenage pregnancies as a result of children not understanding what they are doing, what they're getting themselves into, and also that the choices that they do actually have and the access to contraceptives, etc., etc. So if you are brought up not to question, not to have an opinion, not to debate, and to feel like you don't matter, it is highly understandable why we find ourselves overrun with youth and young adults that seemingly don't care about themselves or each other. There is a saying, you don't know what you don't know, and at Amoyo we use this to lead us to find ways to educate our beneficiaries on all the elements missing in the majority of homes. We encourage open, trusting conversations, and we use every interaction possible to focus on what we call our Steps to Success toolkit, which is to take on all the lessons we share because the toolkit has been formulated as a fail-proof toolkit if you follow it each and every day. One child at a time. In our small organization and many other small organizations, we are not to be underestimated. When you change one child's understanding of his or her value, change the mindset that will allow them to determine their future, then you have longevity in the change. You have one more child who is empowered, who knows his or her rights, who is breaking through the cycle of poverty and all the challenges that come with that. And when they choose to start a family of their own one day, they will hopefully remain using this toolkit to parent their own children. And this is how a community is changed, then a city, then a country. One child at a time. And it all starts with encouraging a child to join one performing arts class. So this is how Emoyo uses the arts to tackle post-apartheid gender inequality and to help our youth realize their full potential in life. And I look forward to shortly bringing in the other panelists from the other organizations for them to also share their strategies and insights into this topic that we are discussing today. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Kim, for these great insights. Now we will be conducting a panel on how 3 South African organizations promote gender equality symbolically and technically in their work. So it is my honor to introduce Jazzart Dance Theater's Managing Director, Averil Barry-Hughes, Jazzart Dance Theater graduate and freelance choreographer, Vuyolwethu Nompetsheni, and co-founder of the BAZ-ART organization, Alex Tilmans, with Kim Morel acting as our moderator.
Wonderful. Thank you, Averil and Alex, for your willingness to join us at this event and for your very valuable contributions that I know are coming. So I'd like to start. Averil and Alex, could you just turn on your microphones, please?
Hello, Kim. Hello, everybody.
Good afternoon. Hi.
Hello, hello.
Hello. So let's start. Female empowerment. Alex, what does female empowerment mean to you at BAZ-ART? And I just would like to add, so the audience knows, that BAZ-ART is actually a partner of UNICEF one of UNICEF's Safe Park Programs partners. I hope I've said that correctly. So Alex, if you could
Yes,
turn on your...
thank you, Kim. So for us, women empowerment starts with creating a safe space and creating a trusted environment. And only in a safe space, in a trusted environment, you can actually host the art classes. The beauty about the art classes is that we can teach anything through art. And that's where we came about with life skills, creating a life skills program through art. And through that program, we managed to address those issues and create a dialogue. For us, the art is a medium to create a dialogue and a conversation that will empower females, women, and children.
Thank you. And Averil, you know, you're quite different in that Jazzart is focused on dance as opposed to the visual, you know, the visual arts. What is Jazzart's approach to female empowerment and outlook on that?
Okay, first of all, just to give you a background on Jazzart for those that doesn't know the organization, Jazzart's been around for 48 years. Started off at the beginning of the struggle and then fighting for racial discrimination, fighting for gender equality, all those political, you know, issues and part of the apartheid that Erita was referring to. I think what's important to understand is that we have evolved somewhat. So other than being a dance organization, so let's just go 2 steps back quickly. In 1973, a female and a white female opened the doors to dancers of color. You know, of course it was, they were allowed to attend that particular studio after hours, but there we already had Jazzart start off with a very strong female model for what Jazzart was going to be. Through the struggle, through the apartheid years, we continued, and I think that's where Jazzart has got its acclaimed name as such. But now things have changed. I think as a managing director right now, Kim, we are more about self-empowerment rather than just women empowerment. So our idea is really to empower our students, specifically our female students, through giving them the tools and the support to be able to build that confidence and become, and you know, go home every day feeling worthy, as you say. We also have an outreach program, and of course that outreach program as well, we deal with the youngsters like Amoyo. And in the same way, our graduates then from that training program are the ones that will transfer their skills to the little ones. And gender inequality, I think to us, is about helping the self rather than what we normally hear about in terms of climbing the corporate ladder, talking about empowerment. I think the days of us as females waiting for people to give us the power, that's gone. We now have the power, the doors are open, and it's about us as the older females assisting the younger ones, you know, to feel worthy and to have a voice.
Absolutely. It comes down to nurturing oneself, doesn't it? When you learn
That's
to
right.
value yourself, then that empowerment comes from within. Thank you. And lovely to know the background to Jazzart. So thank you very much for sharing that. How do you think arts education uniquely makes people aware of gender inequality and female empowerment? Alex, you had a very interesting thought on this.
Yes, thank you, Kim. So usually at BAZ-ART, when we start a new session and with a new group, we have an icebreaker, and that icebreaker is giving each children a big chalk to make large drawings on the floor. But we always give the pink chalk to the boys and the blue chalk to the girls. And to illustrate what I was saying just before, that is how we can generate a conversation. That's how we can generate a dialogue. And that's why we can ask, why the blue and the pink? Explain, is there a difference? And that's how we can promote that equality. That's how we can show that each and every children attending is the same in the art class.
So straight away you're saying that the boys question automatically, hey, why have you given me a pink chalk?
No, they're usually very surprised. They get the chalk and they're like, really? Okay. And then they go with it. And
yeah.
And after a few minutes, the conversation starts.
Fabulous. Encouraging open conversations is absolutely one of the key sources of getting positive results, to get the minds going, thinking slightly differently to the norm. Averil, is there a specific strategy that Jazzart uses to tackle incidences of gender inequality, or do you have a strategy to really promote equality among your students?
Yes. I wouldn't call it a strategy, as Jazzart is quite an old organization. And it's, when a new student walks through the door, they adopt a culture. It's just been around for years. So it's a culture of sharing. It's a culture of telling stories. And that's the way we actually get our message across, or create awareness. We're the ones that tell the story through dance. If we look at, for example, our choreographic process, Kim and Alex, what happens is that, you'd imagine in ballet, the choreographer walks in, he decides what the piece is about, and he teaches the dancers the steps. That's not how we work, for example. We would have a choreographer come in, talk to a theme of, let's say, women empowerment, and that's common. Every production we put on stage is always there's always a piece about women empowerment. What we will then do is talk about the subject, because remember, we're dealing now with the post-matrics. They've had quite a bit of experience in terms, especially our females. They saw Jazzart, they wondered, oh, am I good enough to dance? And they auditioned, and wow, they got in. So what we do in that choreographic process is allow the dancers to bring the movement of what they're feeling into the piece. And the choreographer would then pull that together. Because remember, like I said, we tell stories through dance. And in that way, then we then have our young kids, our audiences, we tour our productions, so that each young person watching the show can relate to different dances, because each dancer has a different way of explaining their part of the story. So that's really how we tackle. That's our main strategy, if you could call that.
I really liked the point that you made, that you are dealing with post-matric. So for our global audience, matric is the end of high school, and Jazzart is the next step after high school. So I think it's a three-year full-time course that they offer. And what is interesting, and this is Iviwe, one of our Emoyo students, sitting here with me. So just sit forward so we can see. And what is interesting is your strategy versus our initial strategy. For us, when our beneficiaries start coming to us, most of our children are like deer in the headlights. They have no idea of what truly can become. And so our first point or strategy point is to make our children feel very safe and nurtured, and to develop the mind to understand that they can, even though it looks really challenging to follow a routine, which might even be a simple routine, we take them on a sort of a paint by numbers process to get them to learn that choreography. So in the beginning, we don't give that freedom, because we're building up a trusting relationship and we want them to accomplish something. So watch, learn, and then achieve. And that is a way of starting to develop the confidence. And then as they become older teenagers and become more confident, then we say, okay, well, the next 8 bars you choreograph. And then you become more involved in some of the creative parts. And we ask for the ideas and the suggestions. And I think age appropriateness in organizations is very, very crucial. Alex, do you have certain projects that are very different based on the age of your participants and beneficiaries?
Yeah, so we focus prior to metrics, so so it would be primary school, high school children, and yeah, obviously the younger they are, the more practical and playful we are. But it's always about generating conversation. It's always about dialogue, and visual art is really a way for very young children to young adults to express themselves and share their feelings. So that the global strategy remains the same. I would say that the exercises are probably different to adapt to the age of the children.
Yeah. And what role do you think arts education, whether it be visual or performance arts, plays in? We have discussed it, but is Vovo here? I think Vovo is maybe good to, or Averil, maybe you've got a new point on this. To what role does the performance play in empowering girls to be more confident in themselves moving forward? What is it specifically? Averil, sorry.
Yeah, thank you. I think Vuvu will talk to that as well with the students, because she's a graduate as well, and she's working in the outreach. So in terms of our cycle, you know, our graduates then go back and teach at organizations like yourselves, in terms of youngsters dance. We get involved with aftercare programs. It doesn't really matter, but there's a full circle where our matriculants then go back to teaching the community as such. If you think of I think what would be the most important, because I've got such a lot to say, is women specifically are dealing with their bodies, issues about their bodies. You know, are my hips too wide? Are my breasts too big? Am I good enough? And unfortunately, because of you know, how our teenagers and our young people have to live today, and social media, what you should be looking like. I think that in itself, when you watch a jazz art, whether it's an outreach piece or it's a formal production by our trainees, the youngsters then sit back as young girls and say, oh my word, I can dance. You see, because we about different races, we about different, so, you know, one particular dancer would be able to do the split, and another dancer can't do that split. But because we choreograph to show the best of each individual body itself, I think that's what is empowering our young people, children and young adults. I think that's what makes it a little bit easier in terms of females, because that's the biggest issue. You know, am I good enough? Am I thin enough? I'm not sure if Avu would like to add to that, but I think that's key in terms of what we do at Jazzart, yes.
Vovo, would you like to come in there with your perspective?
Yeah. Yes. Hello, everybody. First, what I do in the community with the outreach children is, the first time I teach them is give them exercises, just simple exercise, so that I can sort of evaluate and see in terms of their confidence, where are they? Are they able to move freely? If there are guys in class, in the class, then I try to put the guys in front and see, is there something that happens to the ladies who are standing at the back? And what I've figured and I've seen is that in most of my classes, the majority are the females. Already they are there in numbers and they are strong. And I have seen and I found that the guys sort of feel left out, and they sort of stand in the corner all by themselves, like 3 guys in particular. They would stand in one corner all together, because somehow I think that gives them a confidence to actually do the class. And for me, I then start by moving them around, putting one in front so that they can be able to see that their fellow peer is able to do the exercises that I'm doing. It isn't because a female teacher is in front of them, therefore the ladies can follow. Because I've noticed also is that in terms of power, the females are more stronger, even vocally. And they always say that females, they are able to express themselves and speak out freely, and guys sort of keeps everything in, and they're not able to say how they feel. They do not understand the exercise because they feel like they should be strong in the class. So I am starting slowly to focus more on the guys so that they are able to speak out, so that I know when there is a problem. With the ladies, they're already there, they are present, they are doing the exercises, but it's more of the guys that are struggling. So in terms of ladies and empowering the ladies, I tell them that this is the exercise that I'm doing. You are able to do it because I was in your shoes before and look where I am now. So it's all about practicing and following and going with me, keeping the counts with me and listening to the music, because that's what brings us all together. That's my take on this question in particular.
Thank you. Thank you. I think you also brought up something very interesting there, and that is confidence that comes in numbers. And we have the same situation at Amoyo. We actually find it very hard to recruit enough young men because of the stigma attached to the role of men in the arts. That in itself is a whole other topic for discussion that we could host an event on. But there is definitely already a certain amount of confidence within the girls, because it's bigger groups of girls, and we noticed that as well with the young men, that it takes them a while to get the same level of confidence at first. So a really great observation. Alex, is there anything does BAZ-ART have a sort of a 50-50 split between genders, or is there more females or more males? What is your experience with this and merging the confidence between genders?
So according to us, well, in our classes, there's usually a good 50-50 mix, probably because of the fact that they are after-school classes and we host them in libraries. So it's a welcoming space. We talked about safe space earlier. Libraries are all over the country. So yes, we get a 50-50 split, and it's beautiful to see what happens. But we'll talk a little bit about that later when both boys and girls enter the classroom.
Fabulous. I'd like to thank everybody for your participation and sharing your insights. It's great to hear the different ideas from the different organizations, even though we all have the same mission and goals, that you've certainly given me food for thought that I'm going to take back to the Emoyo team and share with them as well. So thank you very much. Back to you, Erita. Are there any questions? Sorry, Erita, do you want to? I'm not following the chat.
Sorry. If anyone has any questions towards these four panelists, feel free to put them in the chat. I think someone raised their hand right now. Hold on. Okay. Have you noticed any ripple effects on other children who are not in the programs, such as on siblings or friends or classmates?
I can definitely say with Emoyo this past year, when we had our registrations in January, I made a point of being there, and I started asking especially our new teens. We've had the biggest registration of new teens this year that we've had in the past three years. And the power of influence is definitely starting to take track. Emoyo is a relatively new organization. We've just celebrated our 6th birthday. So we're now starting to be able to evaluate and monitor the true impact that we're having. And definitely the watching the peers, we've now had 2 or 3 years of good matric results where Emoyo has taken many of the valedictory awards in ratio to the non-Emoyo attendees, and that is it's something that we're very proud of, and something that is coming up in communication. How can you help another person? It's not all take. Use what you're learning to have an influence and impact, and if you can see that somebody desperately might want to but just doesn't have the confidence, remember to tell them it's not about talent, it's about just being part of an organization that cares. That's all it comes down to. Averil, your Jazzart is a very small, small program in that self, but within your outreach programs, do you see?
I do apologize, Kim. I was just reading through the notes in terms of the other questions. What was the question? Are we referring to? Oh, yes, of course, the ripple effect. Oh, yeah. Most definitely. Most definitely. Once you, so what we have is our trainee productions, and then you'll have your student productions, right? You'll notice over the years, and in most years, I'm in awe, because it starts off with 400 people or 300 people in the theatre. And then we bring our students now from the outreach program into the theatre, and we invite 300-400 people. And where we are right now, when tickets are sold out, and it's, for example, in the training program, it's the same students. It's not like we're dealing with different families. The same graduates are teaching in those outreach programs. So I think there's a definite ripple effect. And what's also very important, and I think we must just mention, is that our students are told at home, their families, that this is not a career. And we have proven them wrong. I think also what's important is that we have students very, very doubtful in the first year. But once their parents and their family comes in to watch these shows, there's the big difference. They don't have any issues anymore.
Yeah, I think again, if you don't know what you don't know. In our first year, when we did a show, literally, I think we had about 70 children, maybe 3 or 4 family members showed up to watch the show. At our last show, when we had 175 children on stage, there were only 3 or 4 children who didn't have somebody come to watch them. And that is showing the results, the community seeing the results. We had so many community members who don't even have children at Amoyo booking tickets to come and see. And so that, yeah, a great point on the ripple effect. Alex, there's a question here for you. Do you come across gender-specific subjects in your student or teacher's artwork? And what are the subjects normally?
So yes, we do that, but there's a certain process where we guide them. So each session or each art class is dedicated to, for example, what are your dreams? What is your favorite food, for example, for little kids? But for example, we can tackle portraits, or what is your body looking like? And sorry, what is your body? And then that again generates conversation. So it's always very guided. It's not a session where everybody can draw whatever he wants. No, there's a theme, and that theme is to be discussed after the session, and definitely at the end of each period we host an exhibition. And I would say the same thing as you, where the parents and the brothers and sisters and everybody else attends. It's also great to tackle those subjects again, and that's how that answers the first question, the ripple effect. That's where we see the ripple effect.
Yeah. We had a instance, just to wrap up, we had a few incidents in the local community of horrific gender-based violence, and our teachers started discussing that with our core group, of which Iviwe is a member. And they created a piece called Kwenele, which means enough. It's now enough. And we performed it at several places, but we also included it in our end of year display. And that was the first year that we had quite a few fathers and uncles coming. And I'll never forget at the end of this piece, Quenele, where it was a mixture of strong dancing, but there was song, there was some drama, some dialogue happening, that the audience erupted in a way that we hadn't seen before, but also the men were really enthusiastic. And afterwards, one of the fathers came to me and he said to me, I'm ashamed by this part of my culture. And that piece has really struck a big sort of dagger in my heart about what we need to do differently, and I'm going to be very different moving forward. It just doesn't get better than that, and that is the power of watching something on stage or looking at a painting, that you don't necessarily need to have that direct one-on-one conversation with somebody, but that message can still come across and have such an incredibly life-changing impact. Thank you very much for these wonderful questions that have been asked. Rita, would you like to move on to your next session?
Yes, so thank you to the first panel for your immensely thoughtful discussion on how the arts can be used to create a socially aware culture that empowers young women and men. Now, I'm sure we're quite curious to hear from the beneficiaries of your organizations. So here we have 12-year-old BAZ-ART beneficiary and visual artist Kauthar Casper, Amoyo beneficiary, dancer, actor, and singer, high school student Iviwe Tomtala, Jazzart dance students, Chesley Stanfield and Phiko, and Jazzart graduate, as well as choreographer Vuyolwethu Nompetsheni. Now, I would like to thank you all for joining us for this panel. And for some of you, I know English is not your first language, but we really appreciate your willingness to speak with us today. So I have checked in with all of you before, but could you please introduce yourselves and tell us about why you decided to join your NGO? Why don't we speak with our youngest member today, Casper?
Hi, I'm Kauthar Casper. I'm 12 years old and I joined the NGO because I want to learn about what art is to other people. How do people use art to express their emotions, their feelings, and just like to help people around the world and motivate people that they can be and do and be at their best, and just to improve on what they have and what they are trying to do.
Thank you, Casper. So Iviwe, I know that you are a part of Amoyo's Triple Threat program, which has drama, singing, and dance. So could you please tell us about why you wanted to join Amoyo?
Hi, my name is Iviwe. I'm 15 years old. I joined Amoyo because I wanted to distance myself from dangerous things happening out there. Like, for example, in my community, there's a lot of crime going on. Lots of people and children involve themselves on the illegal things. So yeah, the reason why I decided to join Amoyo is that I wanted to be part of that. Yeah.
Thank you. So today we also have a really interesting group from Jazzart. And to show the various perspectives on gender inequality, we have both a male and female students here with us today. So could Chesney please introduce herself first?
Hi everybody, my name is Chesney. Am I introducing myself or am I answering the question? Sorry.
Both.
Okay. My name is Chesley Stanfield. I'm originally from America, but I've lived here for 14 years now. And it's been my dream for my whole life to become a professional dancer one day. So the reason that I joined Jazzart Dance Theater is, of course, it's a professional dance theater, but trying to find one where I could go. And I was at a performance that actually Boo was performing in the audience. And the company at the time came and performed a piece called Cape of Ghosts that is about land restitution in South Africa specifically. And I'd never seen anything like it. And it moved me so deeply to see the way that they could tell this story through movement. And there was one part where the company did a dance and protest, a rhythm piece against the oppressor, and they all did it facing him together, and it blew me away. It was the most impactful thing I'd ever seen, to see them do rhythm in that protest manner. And I knew as soon as I saw that was exactly where I wanted to train. That was how I wanted to dance, and I wanted to be able to tell stories in the way that they did. So yeah, that's why I joined Jazzart.
Yeah.
Hi everyone, I'm Vuyolwethu. I'm 28 years of age and I'm from East London. The reason I joined Jazzart is I wanted to find an institution or a performance theatre where dance isn't just a 9-to-5 job. It's a storytelling place where you can tell stories from wherever you are, and irregardless of where you come from, they take you in and they nurture you. They pull in a culture of where you can be yourself, where you can develop other skills and other styles in which you can enrich yourself and the community around you. And one of the things that pulled me in was was an outreach program in which, for me, going back home, I'm in an environment where there's a lot of kids that don't know where to go after school, and the institutions that side don't really have a platform in which kids can take care of themselves and in which kids can creatively put themselves into. So I'm very proud of Jazzart for pulling me in and giving me those kinds of skills to turn into and to go about.
Hi everybody, my name is Vuyolwethu Nompetsheni and I am 24 years of age. The reason why I joined Jazzart Dance Theatre is, growing up, I would go and watch different shows, and coming and knowing that on this day in particular, I'm going to watch a Jazzart show, I would instantly get excited. At that time, I didn't know what it was, but thinking back now, it was seeing different abled bodies moving on stage as one, telling stories that are relevant and stories that touch you as a person and makes you want to be a better person. And my highlight was, it was the only professional company that would go out into the outreach and go and teach children. And there were times whereby the community groups would go and perform with the professional dancers at Jazzart, and therefore you had time to learn even more about Jazzart through the dancers that were there. And from then I knew that this was the place that I wanted to be, because I saw bodies that looked just like mine, and that's what I wanted, and I have reached that goal. Thank you.
Yes, thank you so much for your introductions. My next question is, how have these organizations changed all of you? So may I start with Casper again?
I would say it has changed me in my confidence and knowing that I can be myself around people, and just to you know that you are enough and you don't need to change anything just to be like someone or want to be someone, and just to be yourself and to let others know that you are enough and you can do more.
And Iviwe, what have you learned from Emoyo?
What I've learned in Amoyo is that it changed me to become a person who knows how to communicate with others, who knows how to impact with others, and also had changed me to a person who knows how to have a confidence about her life and not change the person who you are right now. Yeah.
So it does seem like confidence is a major theme here on how these organizations have been able to change your thinking. So for our Jazzart students, besides confidence, I remember that in our previous talk, you've also mentioned about how equality has been something really important to you. So could you please explain what Jazzart has taught you about equality?
When I was answering this question originally, I also started off with confidence, and where that took me was So in Jazzart at the moment, I am the only white person and also the only non-African person in an all African, brown and black environment. And the confidence that being in that space, the confidence that arose from that is irreplaceable. To be able to be surrounded by cultures and be able to be welcomed into those is something that has been transformational in my life. And how I feel that ties in with equality is in many places of the world, and also Cape Town specifically in South Africa, I feel that we look at equality as bringing Black and brown people into white spaces. And we look at integration as white people coming into, as Black and brown people coming into white spaces and learning our language and our cultures and assimilating to us. And then we're like, that's equality, that's integration. And I feel very strongly that it should be the other way around, or at least it should be 50-50. And for me, it's been such an incredible experience of learning that being here and being able to be welcomed into Black and brown spaces and learning from their culture and their dance styles and their languages and feeling at home in that space. And I don't feel that that is something that is happening very much in this country. And it's something that I would love to see more of. So yeah.
And to expand on what Chesney is saying is, I remember on our first week when we started training at the time with Usifiso Kweyama, our artistic director, we used to have history lessons with him, whereby we would speak about how it was for them when they were training. And I remember specifically when he told us a story of when he was training, how it felt so uncomfortable to have a different color skin person in the company. And at the time, it was the only company that had mixed race. And because of how he was taught when he was growing up that when you see a white person, you have to bow down your head, you're not allowed to touch them, let alone look them in the eye. But in this case, they not that they didn't have a choice, but because of the work that they were doing, they had to have physical contact. They had to have those moments whereby they are looking together because of contact work and lifting each other. And in this case, and when I look at our training and the training that is currently happening with Chesney and Phiko, it's happening naturally. They are not afraid to work together. There's not a thing whereby Chesney needs to feel superior and for the dark-skinned people to look or feel inferior. It's something that is happening naturally, and I think it's because of how times it's changed as well. Yes. It's beautiful to see how things are changing slowly, one day at a time.
And Phiko, so through this dance education, do you think this dance has helped you understand your female classmates' perspectives as well?
I think definitely, because I don't think males have enough information when it comes to dance with the female counterparts on just things like general health, even for like how if a woman is on a period, like they would usually leave the room and the guy would think, okay, is there something wrong with me? Like the sharing of information, I think it needs to be more forward and more impactful when one is dancing with another or when another community is with another community, because information is very important. And I think as more males go into the dance stream, they also need to understand that as women are there, they need to understand that there are things that women do and then there are things that men do. Sometimes it's harder when you don't understand as a guy of what's not happening or what's wrong, and you would think, okay, I did something wrong, or there's something wrong. Okay, I should step back and let them do what they need to do. But at the same time, for you to understand what's happening, you need to get that kind of information. And I think Jazzart has really implemented that kind of culture on sharing what is happening and the kind of culture of what's happening with one's body and the person next to you.
So it seems that from what you guys are saying, dance can not only help symbolically and technically help with promoting racial awareness of racial issues, but also gender issues as well. So when you are at your NGOs, what rules are encouraged to, well, this is sort of building on what Phiko said, but when you are at your NGOs, what rules are encouraged to help you feel safe and express yourselves through art? Iviwe, maybe you can start.
Is that in Amoyo, they knows how to share love, and they knows how to support a child. So and also when I'm in Amoyo, I feel safe and at home. So yeah.
So it seems that Emoyo has encouraged you to express your art by making you feel safe.
Yeah.
And Casper, how about you? Could you give us some examples as well?
So for me, I would say that it just allows you to be yourself, and you can feel free, and you can express your emotions like with doing art and how, and they like it's just mostly for you to feel safe and for you to know that you are in a safe place and a safe environment where you can just express your feelings through art, and that's what I love about my NGO.
Do you have any examples from your experience in BAZ-ART where teachers have helped to make you feel safe?
I would say that when I am feeling down or when I'm like not at my peace, I would always have like Mr. Jennifer to be by my side to say that you are okay, you got this, you can get through this, and just helps me with how I feel deeply. And I would say that makes me feel that I can talk to him about anything when I'm feeling down or when I have some great news to carry.
And for our Jazzart students, similar to how Casper has said, how do your teachers or classmates or just being able to dance helps you express your feelings?
For us here at Jazzart, one of the things is they push you like a lot, but not push you in the term of you have to, but it push you in the terms of your confidence for different dance styles like voguing. Voguing is one of the dance styles that we do and implement in one of our choreographies, and it's more I would say from what I've experienced like feminine based, but then having that comfortability of being a male doing a woman's or let me say a feminine dance style, it brings you that thing of as a guy you can be more in you can find the comfort in yourself. You don't have to go with the stereotype of men have to be powerful, men always have to be hard, men always have to be that sort of strength. There's a vulnerability in your strength that you can also go into. And I think Jazzart has also implemented the culture of vulnerability, and not that you have to be there's strength in your vulnerability, as I said. And Jazzart has implemented that in the choreography and the culture and the way we go about ourselves and the way we go about our friends and family. And here it's more of it's family based. We know each other, and the sharing of information when it comes to those kinds of things is very beautiful.
Just to add to that, I also think that as people say, one of the ways that Jazzart facilitates such a safe environment is that Jazzart really celebrates us as individuals. We're never trying to fit a mold of this is what it means to be a good dancer. It recognizes that all of the 15 people who are in the room are individuals from another. They come from a culture. They are celebrated for who they are. Phiko is celebrated as being a Black man from his culture. I am celebrated as being a white woman from my culture. And we have different abilities and different strengths, and we bring different dance styles to the table. He comes from ballet, I come from hip hop. We have different strengths, and that's what is celebrated. We're all pushed to do all of them, but we are highlighted in our strengths, and we are asked to lead in those positions. And when we're asked to lead, it's always, as Phiko was saying, from a place of vulnerability, of telling our story, letting everyone understand you, and being proud of who you are and leading from that space. And I feel like that is very much how Jazzart facilitates such a safe space where we all feel respected for who we are specifically.
And just another thing to add on, it's also a culture with Jazzart to also do performances. Like one of the biggest performances in Cape Town is AbFab, and it's a drag performance where drag queens all over Cape Town come together. And I was lucky enough to be part of that performance, and just sharing the information with that kind of culture. It's also impacted me on how different cultures in Cape Town have come together, and different cultures in people are shown in that way. And from where I came from, we've never had that part of like performing, and it was a new experience for myself. And I was so happy to be part of it, because it's something that not a lot of people talk about from where I'm from, or it's not a piece of conversation that a lot of people like to have, because they shy away from it. They don't see how it affects them irregardless of where they come from. But I think Jazzart has, like I said, implemented those different styles and that different information. Like it's just parts and parts and parts that are being put together, and it's very beautiful.
And to add on, there's a culture here at Jazzart whereby in the first few weeks of training, there were exercises that are done, which are not dance, whereby we talk about, it's one-on-one sessions with each and every peer that's in the group, where we go deeper into understanding and knowing a person. And therefore there are some stories that you would share with someone, and in that way you'd feel more comfortable with that person even after the exercise, like leading to like your third year, whereby you still feel like there's a connection that you had made with that person that you met on day one, which is planted from day one already when you start your training with those trust exercises, where you share everything from where you come from, where you've been, anything that they've hurt you in the past, and how you need assistance. And in that way, there's always support that's within the group, because you know that there's a moment that you shared with that person, and you know already when that person is not in a good space because of what the person had told you in the beginning. And therefore you are always in touch and connected with the person. Like especially with my group, we graduated in 2018, but we still have that bond whereby you know that somehow there's something happening with one person and you need to reach out. And in most cases, you'd find that that person is not in a good space, and you would know that because of that special bond that you had created with that person. And that's what I love about Jazzart. It's that they give you tools for you to have, not only for the period that you are there, but for even afterwards. And it's something that you would also want to pass on to the next generation, because that's something that has helped you as a person too.
It seems that emphasizing vulnerability with a supportive environment has really helped all of you feel confident in your identities, and just allows for self-expression, which would probably include celebrating the feminine and empowering all of your students. So finally, Casper and Iviwe, could you please describe something you have learned from your NGO that has impacted your understanding of gender roles? Casper?
I would say that women, like, how can I say, boys or men will think that women are just allowed to do the food, make food, or just do household things. And I think women are more than enough. Men are the exact same. And I would say that we have equal rights, and everybody is enough and special, and they also need to know that. And just that anything is in if you want to do something, you need to work on yourself to show that or prove that you can do it, and nobody can stop you or bring you down, because there's going to be a lot of hate that's going to come on you, but you just need to show them that that's not going to back you down from what you want to do or do in the future or want to make a change in life.
Iviwe, do you agree?
Yes, I do agree.
So when you were at Jazzart before, sorry, before you were at Amoyo, what was your understanding about gender roles?
Was that each and every female deserved to be treated well as like men, and also that they also must have the self-love, like self-esteem, and they must not feel uncomfortable because of the way, for example, like they must not feel uncomfortable when they are around of people, but they must feel comfortable around people. Yeah.
Thank you. So it seems that Amoyo has taught you how to respect women and have confidence in yourself. So could you please talk about how you have learned about respect from Amoyo?
Is that when my dance mates, like when they need some help, I must always be there. When they are hurt or they have something that they wanted to share, that I must be there for them. Yeah.
Okay. So Chesney, you have talked previously to me about how the choreography of Jazzart is about striving for social justice. As a dancer, how do you use choreography, and Vuyolwethu can also answer this, to present your feelings about gender roles?
Well, as we said, we do everything through storytelling, and a lot of our choreography, well, all of our choreography, there's a why behind what we do. It's never movement based. It's about authenticity. So we strive really hard to be authentic in our movements and what we're communicating. And I know we talked about this previously. I think a really great example of symbolism through choreography and being authentic is in 2019, we were doing a piece by Ananda, and the piece was all about what we're talking about now, gender-based violence. It was really heavy in the country, specifically at that time. We had a huge protest at the parliament fighting for female rights, and it was heavy in the room. It was heavy on everyone, especially in our classes. We were trying to do this piece to get some message across. And what we ended up doing was we had this choreography and we needed it to impact. So what Ananda did is she said, at this one part where the females are doing this piece, I want all of the men in the room to come and jump on their backs and stay on their backs as they dance. And we have to complete that part of the choreography with the men on top of us on our backs. And for me, that was the most impactful moment of the choreography. Of course, it was physically demanding to have to dance with an entire man on your back, but that picture, it moved me so much. And yeah, I felt that's a really great example of how Jazzart loves to communicate what we're feeling on the inside. And the best way we know how to do that is through movement and through images.
I was privileged enough to be invited by Jazzart again to choreograph a piece which I named An-Nur, which meant light. And during the process of my work, I knew that I didn't want to tell the story, nor wanted the ladies to tell a story from a point of where they were victims in the piece, because that already puts them in a position where it felt like they needed to be felt sorry by people who are watching, and the men. So I took a turn during the choreographic process that I need these ladies to be strong, and I wanted ladies only. And in a way, there were moments where they were weak, but in those moments of weakness, they were never weak. Those were the moments where they were actually finding their strength. And as a final product, when I speak about who An-Nur is, I saw these beautiful ladies blossoming into beautiful women. And for me, that was like, for men, can you see how beautiful we are as women when we are happy and when we are free and we're light and we're allowed to express ourselves in all the ways that possible that we can. So for me, that was my highlight when I was working with the ladies, that allow us to be us. Don't put us in a box, because that's not who we are. We are free, we were expressive, we are strong in all ways. We are also weak, but in that weakness, that is our strength.
Thank you. So we would also like to learn about the male perspective. And so Phiko, from your point of view, what kind of message do you think this kind of choreography sends to other men out in the audience?
When I saw the piece, and not just seeing the piece, but at this moment in time as we're speaking, I think the population of the women in our company are stronger than the men, and emotionally as well as mentally. And I think it's very beautiful that it's happening that way. And I also think that the men in our company don't have enough information for themselves to uplift themselves. But also what the women did in that piece was, the first time they performed, I cried, actually. And like, to see your peers going through that process and the hardships that you think women go through, but the strength that comes out of it, and the lights that came out of it. I didn't realize I was crying until like I felt the tears on my face, and just seeing like one of your peers going through that process of finding themselves, of finding the strength in vulnerability. I don't think it's celebrated enough.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you so much to you all. And I would like to open the question to the floor now. So feel free to type your questions to our panelists into the chat box below. I can see that there are already a few questions. So first, how has dance or art, drama, or singing changed or influenced your relationships with your families or other people in your lives? Casper, would you like to go first?
So I would say it has changed in that you don't really, you can, like my family and I were very close, but art has made us like express our emotions differently. And art, dance, I can like say that anyone can relate to it when you just feel it in your heart that you can just release that energy that you have. And my family has always supported me with that, and always being by my side when I need them, and always being there when I'm not at my best or when I think that I just need to give up. But they're always motivating me to say, "You've got this, and you can achieve it." So I think that art is very important. It's not just about drawing or about dancing. It helps you emotionally and physically with your well-being and with the people that you are surrounded by.
Iviwe, would you like to answer this as well? Basically, how has arts changed or influenced your relationships with your family?
Well, it has changed me to know how to encourage others, and also makes me how to encourage myself to think more positively. And also, for example, when I started being part of Amoyo, I was like, no man, I don't know how to sing, dance. But then at the end, I started to think that, to encourage myself that, no man, let me just join everything that Amoyo is doing, so that I can be also the professional dancer that I wanted in my dreams.
And we have a question to the Jazzart students. Have you ever encountered gender discrimination in the dance industry? If so, how has your training at Jazzart equipped you to confront that gender discrimination?
I am because of the training, sorry, because of the training here at Jazzart, you are given a chance to observe and see something that's coming from a distance already. So in the industry, you can already pick up when someone is starting, like with me, because you have, as a person, we have instincts, and you can feel when someone is up to something already. So with me, and in particular, I know someone who, when they hug you, it's almost like their energy and the way that they hold you, they sort of like they what is it when someone touches you with seductive and intimate. And I felt it once, and the second time this guy did it, I looked at him in the eye and I pushed him away and I said, listen here, you do not look at me in that way. For one, you do not hold me like I'm your girlfriend or your wife. And that person never did it again, because that's something that has been taught to me, that if someone does something to you, you address it immediately. You don't wait for it to happen over and over and over again for you to address it, or to first ask someone, does that person hold you in that way? Is it something that's happening? No, address things immediately so that in the future they know that they're doing something wrong and that they do not do it to the next person.
For myself, coming from my ballet background, not necessarily in the dance industry, but like my peers as well. Like the social stigma of ballet only being for females was a big problem from where I came from, because I was playing rugby at the time, and going back to rugby, the guys would be like, dude, why are you touching me? Or do you still even want to play rugby just because you did ballet? And ballet was one of the reasons why I became a better rugby player, because of my strength and the connection I felt with my body and being able to do certain things in a certain way. And also trying to inform my friends and my peers that just because I do ballet doesn't change who I am as a person. Dance is a form of expression. It's not who you are at the end of the day. It doesn't tell you who you're supposed to be at the end of the day. And I think more males need to understand that dance is more of who you want to express out and what you want to take out of yourself and what you want to share amongst your peers, and not who you have to be at the end of the day. It's not a box that you check at the end of the day saying, because I'm doing this, I have to be this person. Because I'm doing this, I have to be this person. And I think dance has formed that confidence in me to say, I am who I am. This is my form of expression. This is who I want to be. This is who I stand for. And the next person next to you, and you can stand for that person as well, because you're a family also at the end of the day.
And also, I have felt that in some cases, because they don't know the type of training that I went to, and I know Jazzart training is hard. You get trained to jump as high as men, you get trained to be as fast as men, and going out into the industry, immediately they see that you are a lady. When they choreograph, already you're not in that section because of you were female. And with me, and I know with another fellow peer of mine who said, we were in one production and this guy was taking us out of a section of choreography because we were females, and he thought that we were not going to be able to do it. And we challenged him, and we did that choreography, and we were in that section, and we told him, look now, who is doing it better than the guys? You thought we couldn't do it? No, darling. We were trained to look just like men, to be butch. And sometimes in our training, we were asked to be more like ladies, but we lost it sometimes because we wanted to be strong. And and it's so funny that there were times we were asked to be like feminine in our training, and we were like, no, we don't want to be feminine, we want to be like men. So it helped, like our training really helped us in the industry.
Thank you so much for everyone speaking here today. Unfortunately, we are on a time crunch and this webinar will be closing in 6 minutes. So I would just like to invite Kim to provide her own takeaways from these panels.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Erita, and everybody who's participated and the wonderful questions from the audience. What a lot has been covered. So in brief, my points that have really stood out for me, and I hope you agree, and maybe that you'll also have these same takeaways, is that arts develops consciousness for the individual and for the individual to consider their role in society and with other people, and how the skills and confidence that they develop and how they feel about themselves can have that domino ripple effect to other people. What has been very apparent here is that we are living, especially in South Africa, in a very diverse, merging diversity. So we've got so many cultures here and around the world, but we've got a lot of cultures here, and our youth and population on a whole need to learn how to navigate in a world where there are different cultural expectations. And we need to find a healthy way to empower our youth to feel confident in all societies, amidst all cultures, and to respect each other's cultures for the good parts of those cultures. I grew up in England and Holland and South Africa, and I can honestly tell you what I admire and take away from each culture, and the parts that I say, don't work for me, don't build up the person, break down people. And every culture has that, and I think that Chesney brought in a very valuable point of discussion on that level of respecting and being comfortable in each other's cultures. Equality comes from feeling safe and confident and having a supportive space to grow and develop skills. That is something that has come across very strongly in today's event. And that using arts as that vehicle, the arts opens up conversations, because you need to translate thoughts and feelings and emotions through visual art or through performance art. We are opening up those conversations that allows the individual to develop, but with the support of an organization with infrastructure. And I think that is very, very important. It is so much harder to develop yourself if you're doing it alone. And that's why the non-profit sector, these small organizations and larger organizations, are so important to making the world a much better and happier place for more people. My final point is that today we have had the pleasure of having Amoyo students and myself and BAZ-ART and Jazzart student and organizational leaders. And we are all relatively small organizations that can work on a one-on-one level. And I would like to encourage the larger organizations to find ways to have more engagement with their beneficiaries to increase the impact and longevity of the focus areas of building up the confidence and feeling of equality within the people that we're working with. And I think that is something that having more active engagement and more regular engagement can certainly impact on a longer and lasting scale. Those are my major takeaways, that we have to be conscious of what the smaller structures are able to do and why it works, and that we're living in a world where we're not defined by one culture anymore, and we need to embrace that and really grow on the positive attributes from each culture, and focus on the individual, the one child at a time, because we can see the ripple effect that is happening and can happen on a global level. Thank you very, very much, everybody, for joining us today.
Thank you, Kim. We are so thankful to every one of our wonderful panel speakers and audience, and I have been just really privileged and honored to have heard from all of you. If you are interested in learning more about these organizations, you can find the websites of each in the conversation box on our forum page. And thank you so much for being a great audience as well. Thank you.